situation in Britain rested. We don't have its equivalent here. And therefore, no wonder that system did not last with us. Then we had another arrangement imposed on us, again based on sentiment. That was in 1966, when the military, or Agui Ronsi, declared this country a unitary unit. Again, this was born out of his own sentiment as a soldier with this up-to-down three system of command. Again, this is too short. I don't think I've exhausted my time. But in conclusion, therefore, what I'm saying is that we should try and preserve this presidential system, which with some restructuring, but not necessarily a major surgical operation. Because as a nation, this is a nation, and therefore, we should not be over-experimenting. Let us give this system some 50 years. We have already lived with the presidential system for 35 years. Another 15 years, we'll be in a position to review it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Iyoke, Barrister Godswill Iyoha.
Mr. Chairman, fellow delegates, I'm Godswill Iyoha Iyoke. Incidentally, I was born just before independence in southeast Nigeria. I didn't understand a word of my dialect until the pogrom of 1967 when I had to get back home. At that time, I recall my father had properties in the east. I started primary school in the east. I had to come back to former Midwest as it then was and settled my local government headquarters at Auchi. And incidentally, I started school in a missionary school, a Muslim missionary school. I ended up in a Catholic missionary school and secondary school, Catholic missionary secondary school. Worked briefly after my secondary school as a banker. Then went to university, posted to Kaduna to do my service. Was received, I served in an office. Incidentally, my friend is here, Senator Kabir Jibril. We shared fellowship, practiced my law in Kaduna from 87 up to date. And I have a clear understanding of Nigeria's political situation and terrain, particularly when I had part of my education in Southwest, saw the sophistication of the social environment of the Yorubas. And coming down to the north, having good relationship with friends, both Muslims and Christians, only to realize that some of the problems that we have are created not by the people themselves. They are united at heart, united in the marketplace. The currency don't have, sectarian difference or denomination. And I've come to the conclusion that the major problem of the Nigerian society is absence of a common national ideology, besides worsened by the fact that it lacks the philosophy of government, which is not people-oriented. It's seeing the concept a nation as a territory, not a people. A place, not a place where developed people. So the human capacity, the human element is absent. That's why you have governments, about 450 governments in the north. You have a very robust religious culture in the north, but the poorest. And if we go around the world, you find out the worst the places in the world, the part of the world are places where nations, where religion is used as state policy. It is divisive. It is corrupt. And I find out that Nigeria has developed, I'm inspired by the president's speech, particularly at page 8. I said we should do introspection. Introspecting the situation in Nigeria, I realized that we're like a refugee camp. Unfortunately, those who are supposed to manage the camps are refugees themselves. So we have a survivalist environment where everybody seeks those you look up to give you resource, to give access to resource, connect to themselves. What you have is a scramble for resources. We need a good resource management and understanding of the fact that every part of the nation is resource rich. In people, in humanity, sense of humanity, kindness, empathy. How do we involve all of this together? And major religions group, whether traditional religion, Christian religion, Islamic religion, we must simulate the values of this culture to prepare good ethical and value standards for society. That is what is going to move us forward. Until then, we start continuing to wallow in the wilderness of want and despair. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Izogu, Engineer Dr. Ezekiel. Izogu, Engineer Dr. Ezekiel. Not here. The next one is Jamodu, Chief Kola. Not here. Jankada, Honorable Dr. Salome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the high table, my distinguished colleagues, I am Honorable Dr. Salome out of Jankada, ON, the Jakadi of Kwararafa, and the Naiba of Dongalam. Yes. I stand here to appreciate Mr. President on behalf of the Nigerian women and indeed our youth and children. It couldn't have been a better time than this because people have been talking in cycles as to what is happening in Nigeria. But today we have the privilege. I say I'm thanking Mr. President on behalf of the Nigerian women and the children because when it happens, it is the women that bear the brunt. You see them carrying their luggage on their head, some on their stomach, some at their back, dragging other children. But sitting down to talk about these issues, I'm sure this situation has been averted already. Mr. President, we say thank you. Let me go to Mr. President's speech. I want to align myself with page 11 of the President's speech, which reads, we cannot continue to fold our arms and assume that things will straighten themselves out in due course, instead of taking practical steps to overcome impediments on our path to true nationhood, rapid development, and national prosperity. I would like to say this. Just let us turn and look at each other. I want to quote from Luke chapter 6, verse 31. Yes. Love your neighbor as yourself. If there is love, there wouldn't be this. And he says, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. If that has been practiced, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about Nigeria. Love overlooks all things. Whether you are a Muslim, you are a Christian, whatever you are, when they say love, it is all encompassing. Can we Nigerians learn to love each other? And let us learn to talk our hearts, not our mouths. Because when we speak here, God sees the heart. What is God seeing in your heart? Are you speaking your heart or your mouth? Because he sees. I want to take up morality in the present Nigeria. What is our position talking of the truth? Are we truly true to Nigeria? Because it is being said here that the casualty, if this assignment is not properly carried out, is Nigeria. I would not want Nigeria to be a casualty. Therefore, we must learn to speak the truth and do the truth, for it shall set us free. The value systems, they are so dislocated. Our elders sitting here that are 70, 80 years will agree with me that in those days, you do not admonish somebody because he has money. You do that because he is morally sound and he cares about that community that God has placed him in. He cares about the people. What do we have today? You will have borehole in your house. Even to bring out just a mouthpiece of that water for your neighbor to take, you are not willing to do that. Nigerians, I think these are the issues. We must learn to love our neighbors. If we love our neighbors, I'm sure the value system that our parents had, that community living will be reinstated and we will have no problem of coming to sit down and discuss all these issues we are discussing. Love is the answer to the panacea we are suffering today in Nigeria. Let us learn to love each other, irrespective of where we come from. Diversification of our economy, we must learn to diversify the economy. There is no country in the world that practices mono-economy that has survived. This, I say, without mincing word, that why don't we go back to the agricultural days where you have your pyramids of granules, the cuttings, then we will be doing very well. There will be no muzzle flexing as to, oh, this is my own and that is your own. We will all be Nigerians and we shall enjoy Nigeria. God bless Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. Jemide, Chief Isaac. Oh.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Let me join the others in commending Mr. President for a good, a well-conceived address and very well delivered. Let me say, the President at page 5, I'm sorry, I'm Isaac Jemide of Delta State, a lawyer by profession. The President wants us to have a prosperous and united progressive nation. He also wants all the constraints of this federation to be taken into account, whatever we do. More importantly, the President believes that the groups, the communities of this country are the building blocks of this country. These building blocks were put together arbitrarily by Lugard in 1914 without their consent. Some are big, some are small. What we need to do today is to recognize that these building blocks, the smaller ones, are not inferior to the bigger ones. The bigger ones should not oppress and swallow the smaller building blocks with the intention of swallowing from them all the resources they have behind their back door in the name of distribution. Let us recognize the existence of these smaller groups. Protect them so that we all can be one. Because the smaller groups are very numerous throughout this country. If we all unite, we may bust this country. So we don't want the country to be bust. Accommodate us so that we can accommodate you. We need to protect the smaller groups in the interest of peace, equity, and justice in this country. In the next constitution to be amended, we want a minority protection clause to be inserted so that we can stay alive in this country without feeling inferior. Mr. President, thank you very, very much for giving me this attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The next speaker is Jibril Professor Munzali. Jibril Professor Munzali.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is Professor Munzali Jibril. I represent the Nigerian Academy of Letters, of which I am president. I am a former executive secretary of the National Universities Commission. I would like to join others in commending the president for an address which was more like that of a statesman than that of a politician. And it's very, very inspirational. I will derive my inspiration from one of the many points of the speech, inspirational points of the speech, which is we must relaunch our country. And we cannot relaunch this country until we analyze the problems that it has and find viable solutions to them. I would just list some of these problems. Lack of accountability, corruption, autocratic leadership style, impunity, policy inconsistency, leading to insecurity, democracy without Democrats, youth unemployment. I want to elaborate a little on corruption. The fact that we have a monocultural economy, which is rent-based, has made us very lazy and has made us to abandon agriculture and mineral resources, which were contributing more to the economy before the discovery of oil. And the existence of oil as the major driver of the economy or financier of the economy leads to corruption. Political corruption derives from the need to hold on to power in order to continue to accumulate wealth. Because we have a prebendal elite that is only interested in stealing out of the treasury at the expense of the masses. This leads to lack of electoral integrity. The average Nigerian politician thinks that it is foolhardy to go for a free and fair election and freely give up power, especially if you can manipulate the system to stay on. This is very dangerous. Our constitution is actually very good, as another speaker had said. If you look at the developed countries, they have different systems of government, different constitutions. Each one works for them. As has been repeatedly said here, the problem is not with the constitution, but with our own attitude. We have to change our attitude in order for us to make progress. So, what would be the solutions? We have to entrench accountability. We have to restore the glory of the civil service as the custodians of virtue and accountability. We have to weaken the power of the executive. We have to devolve power. We have to practice true federalism. We have to strengthen institutions. And we have to diversify the economy. And we have to be more consistent in implementing policies. And we have a document which can guide us, which is the Vision 2020. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Jijiwa Abubakar B.
Mr. Chairman, fellow delegates, my name is Abubakar Jijiwa. I'm one of the two representatives of the broadcasting organizations of Nigeria, the other one being Chief Dr. Pesi. The larger constituency is the Nigerian Guild of Editors, the NUJ, NAOJ, and other, so many veterans I can see, Onyema Ugochukwu, Governor Oshoba, Reyeku, Magaji Dambata, and so on. My responsibility at this conference is to speak on behalf of the Nigerian media, specifically the broadcast media. No democracy can survive without a vibrant media. Our duty is to make sure that the factor of advocacy, the factor of enlightenment for the masses of Nigeria is deeply entrenched, and this is exactly what we are going to do collectively as a group when we reach the committee levels. As a human being, as an individual, as a Nigerian, I will also want to contribute to making sure that this country that in which I was born, and I was born after independence, so therefore I have a stake in a country called Nigeria. I wasn't born during colonial times. We have a duty to make sure that this country remains united, focused, and prosperous. Therefore, those who seek to exhume the dead bodies of our blessed leaders, Sardauna, Awolo, and so on, I think are missing the point. Those of us have done their jobs for Nigeria. We must move on. The time has come for us to also be our own Awolos and Sardaunas and Azikiwes and the Aminu Kanos. Therefore, those who want to take me back to Kaduna Regional Headquarters, 1,000 kilometers from my town, Yola, I say no, because it is not, this is what we have been fighting for. You cannot even take me to Maiduguri, which is the other geopolitical capital. We must not think that because the Awolowos did well, therefore we cannot do well because we don't have regions. Our system is that we must change our own lifestyles, have public and private morality as part of what we need to do. A bad leader, if you take him to the region, he will still be a bad leader. A corrupt leader will still continue to be a corrupt leader. Let us change our values. Let us strengthen institutions that make corruption unattractive. Let us strengthen institutions that will make this country work for us, instead of exhuming the memories of our leaders past. Yes, we can borrow from them, but there is a lot we too can do. And there are flashes of inspiration. Somebody has just mentioned a lot of governors who are doing so much. You may not achieve perfection, but they are doing. And in future, those are the people that the next generation will also be referring to them. Finally, somebody talked about wasted generation. Our young people here are saying that the time has come for them. I'm just over 50 now, and still I'm regarded as a small boy, because my fathers and my grandfathers are still in the system. So please, before you in your 30s and 40s start pushing us, wait for us, our wasted generation, to be relevant and be purposeful in Nigeria before you start thinking that. But I also acknowledge that we must bring the old and the new in order to have a very good admixture in order to move this country forward. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Jimeta Alhaji Mohammed Gambo. Jimeta Alhaji Mohammed Gambo. You may prefer to sit down, sir.
Thank you.
We'll respect your age, please.
Thank you very
Sit
much.
down.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, having sat down here and listened to all the comments on the president's speech, it reminded me of the years I have been in service and accompanied Nigeria heads of state to international conferences where speeches were made. And one of the greatest disservice that you could do to your head of state is to really tell him where he has not done well, that he is doing very well. You are just pushing him away from the reality on the ground. The president's speech, like any other speeches that we know heads of states carry around in their name, were probably written by assistant secretaries and very low-down bureaucrats. And some intellectuals who could not win elections in their areas would come around the powerhouse and write the speeches for them, even though they do not relate to anything that is the reality on the ground. A wise head of state would be very wary when everybody got up to say he is doing very well, you have said very well, sir, you have done this. We in the services have long realized this, that you have a bevy of orderlies and escorts following you. No sooner you come out from a meeting or your office, they surround you, open the car of the door of your car, say, well done, sir. So I look at them, I say, what have I done that you? did you know what I was doing in the office? Ah, sir, you are doing very well, sir. So when I go for lunch, after eating lunch, feeling very heavy, they still come around me and scurrying to open the door for me. And I enter the car and say, well done, sir. And there are occasions where I had to sit and listen to African heads of states in particular in the areas that has been secluded for them at conferences. What I had heard on many occasions was shocking. Only African heads of state beat their chest to one another that their citizens were wretched people, and that is the way he dealt with them. And they would all be laughing and shaking one another's hand. So I think we are doing a great disservice. The president's speech, particularly on this case, in this case, is just the ordinary